Chapter 10 of your textbook covers the musculoskeletal system, which includes muscles and the skeletal system. So I'll start with a review of the muscles, starting with different types of muscle tissue. There are three types. Skeletal muscle is composed of striated fibers. You can see little stripes or striations on these fibers. And these fibers are voluntarily controlled. This type of muscle is attached to bones. Cardiac muscle, shown below, is composed of striated, branched fibers that are involuntarily controlled, and this is located in the heart wall. Finally, smooth muscle is composed of non-striated fibers that are involuntarily controlled. And this is located in many places in the body, like forming the walls of your organs, walls of blood vessels and airways. It's also found in the urinary and reproductive ducts. And next, muscles are connected in various ways. There's several different types of attachments that are connective tissues, and they help connect muscles to bones. The first one shown is an aponeurosis, which is a fibrous attachment that spans a large area of a bone. So usually it's a really broad, flat piece of tissue. In this example, this aponeurosis covers the entire top of the skull. A tendon is a fibrous attachment that is cord-like. It's almost sort of like a rope. And a ligament is a fibrous attachment that holds bones together. A tendon is shown here. So a tendon connects a muscle to a bone, and a ligament connects bone to bone. So tendons and ligaments are really similar in their composition, in the tissue they're made out of, but they just connect two different things. You have a chart in your study outline that lists the various body movements produced by different muscle actions. And you have descriptions also on the PowerPoint and some images helping you to see these different types of movements and understand what's happening. So I'll move on now to bones, to the skeletal system. And there's several different bone types, just based on the size and shape of the bone. Short bones are equal in length and width, and they tend to have a cube shape. So the bones of the wrists and the ankles are short bones. Irregular bones have complicated, irregular shapes, and they just don't fit into any of the other categories, so they're kind of just given a category of their own. An example would be a vertebra, like shown here, that clearly has an irregular shape. Flat bones are thin, flattened bones. Often they are curved a little bit. The sternum is an example of a flat bone. And then long bones are greater in length than width. So the bones of the arms, of the legs, these are all long bones. And if you take a closer look at a long bone, it has several distinct parts. The diaphysis is the main shaft of the bone. It's composed of compact bone tissue. The medullary cavity is the space that runs through the middle of the diaphysis. The epiphyses are the ends of the bone, and they are composed of spongy bone tissue. This is where red bone marrow is located, which produces blood cells. Articular cartilage, that's shown in this bluish color here and also on this end. This covers the epiphyses and it provides a smooth surface for the movement of joints. And finally, the periosteum, you can see a little bit of it right here. It's a dense white fibrous membrane that covers a bone, and it contains blood vessels to help nourish the bone. I've mentioned compact bone and spongy bone. These are the two types of bone tissue. Compact bone is thick, hard bone tissue, and it's located forming the outer layer of all bones. Spongy bone is less dense. It contains many spaces that are filled with bone marrow. And this forms the inner layer of bones. So you can see compact bone is the outer layer, spongy bone is here in the middle. All right, you also have a chart that goes over the various surface features of bones. These are pieces of bone that either stick out or depressions or holes in bones. The name and the descriptions are right in the chart, so I'm not going to define every single one since you have that there already. Let's go down to the divisions of the skeletal system. The axial skeleton is shown on this picture in blue. This forms the central axis of the body, and it includes the skull, the vertebral column, and the rib cage. The appendicular skeleton consists of the bones that form the limbs and the girdles that attach them to the axial skeleton. On this picture, they're shown in blue. So you have the limbs, the upper limbs here, and the lower limbs, and the girdles like the pelvic girdle and the pectoral girdle that connect these bones to the axial skeleton. All right, and then just all of the different bones are listed here. So you guys can go through the PowerPoint and look at these and identify them yourself. There's descriptions here, pictures. So working through the axial skeleton and then appendicular skeleton. So let's go down to the joint section. Joints are also called articulations, and this is a place where two or more bones meet. There's different degrees of movement that you can have at the different types of joints. There's generally 3 types of joints classified on their degree of movement. Diarthroses are freely movable, amphiarthroses are slightly movable, and synarthroses are immovable. Synovial joints, like the ones shown here, are the freely movable joints, and they contain several structural components. There's 2 that you should know specifically. The joint capsule surrounds the ends of the bones to form the joint cavity. And the synovial membrane is the inner lining of the joint capsule. It secretes synovial fluid, which fills the joint cavity. That's the space that you can see in here. And then in your outline, there are several combining forms that are listed that are associated with the skeletal system. And in a separate chart, there are combining forms that are associated with the muscular system. The third chart contains prefixes, and the fourth one contains various suffixes that are mainly associated with bones, but there's a few muscle suffixes in there as well.